I didn't even check my microphone, make sure it's working. Okay, cool. There. Let's try that. A little bit closer. A little bit closer to the masticator. Ghost Rider is here. That's a new name I'm not familiar with. How are you? Welcome to you. Unless it's although the last couple of times I've said that to somebody, anytime a new screen name pops up, they're they're in the live feed that I'm not familiar with. The last couple of times I've brought that up, somebody's mentioned, oh, it's I'm so and so. I had to change my screen name because of YouTube did this or whatever happened. So for whatever it's worth. So, but whether you're new or you've been watching this channel for a while, welcome to you. At any rate, and Metal Bay 79, William De Silva, Joe Ennis, Jeff 7, Ghost Rider Joel Bateman. Okay, that name I do recognize. Dave Escobar, Darren Broxton, what's up, fellas? Give it another minute or two to let a few people get in here. That may have YouTube doesn't seem to blast out the alerts that I've gone live. I've turned on the live feed on my channel to everybody all at the same time. So I have I have nothing. Yep. So, hope everybody had a good week since the last time we did this about a week ago. And I had the busiest week at work that I have had in I don't know months. Seems like all of a sudden, the phone was ringing and people were needing quotes, big quotes, huge projects, bills of materials and stuff put together. All kinds of stuff, man. A good problem to have. I'm not complaining at all, but I have not had like yesterday. Usually I'm able to stop a couple of times throughout the day and check messages, reply to some YouTube comments as they've come in, or at least read them. And yesterday I didn't get a chance to do that at all until like midnight last night. So I had this huge, like 50 or 60 comments, huge list of 50 or 60 comments I had to go through last night. So, if it seemed like I was taking a while to reply to you if you said something, I didn't forget about you. Mike St. Croix, William Silva says, no good week. My Vola was supposed to be at my house yesterday. Weather got delayed. I got weather delayed. Stupid weather. There's been a lot of, they're claiming weather delays anyway with the shipping companies, UPS. I read another, somebody else shared another horror story in the BC Rich group about, their UPS, I guess it was just going from California to Oregon. It's not that far, and it just vanished. And, who knows if or when that guitar will ever be seen again. So. Ghost Rider says I got an LTD Jeff Hanneman 624 fret guitar. Those are cool, man. I actually got to play once upon a time. I've got pictures of it on my phone too. I'll have to share them sometime. A buddy of mine is a real big collector, and he was friends with a guy named Armand, who was Armand was in the Slayer camp. I think he was Jeff Hanneman's guitar tech, I believe. And after Jeff Hanneman passed away, Armand got received at least a few of Jeff Hanneman's guitars. And one of those guitars, Armand since passed away since this happened, unfortunately. But Armand, had sold, or I'm pretty sure he sold them, to my friend in question, and I actually got to play a couple of Jeff Hanneman's actual guitars one time, actual ESP guitars, and they were awesome. Didn't have the money or anywhere near it for those. I would have loved to have had it, but I would love to have owned it because he did sell them, but didn't work out that way. Oh well. Let's see. Charles 75N is here. Voodoo Custom Pickups has joined the soiree. Welcome to you, sir. You're getting a lot of mention in the comment sections on my recent pickup video, so I'll have to check out some of your pickups one of these days. Let's see. Before I forget, if you guys want to support the channel, and of course, those of you who are not new here know I'm probably going to say this a few times over the next couple of hours, but, if you guys, pardon me, if you guys want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the little dollar sign, donation button thing down there below the chat. You can hit up the Teespring shop. That link is posted at the top of the chat. There's also a link to PayPal account if you just want to eliminate the middleman. That's down there in the subscription or the subscription down in the description box below this video. And all that, all the support that you guys offer all goes right back into the channel. So that's basically how I get to keep demoing gear for you guys. Let's see. Caesar MC says, Robert, greetings from Peru. What's your opinion about Tokai guitars? Tokai guitars, I think, are awesome, especially if you find the right ones. There was three Japanese brands from the 70s and early 80s who were all making excellent Gibson copies. They were making Gibson guitars better than Gibson was at that time. Tokai was one of them, and Greco and Bernie. The Bernies happen to be my favorites. The Tokais, I think, are probably the most valuable on the vintage market, though. So, some of those guitars go for pretty big bucks. Tokai guitars are awesome, dude. Yankee Peter says, hello, Robert. Hello from Detroit. I really enjoy your channel. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Voodoo Custom Pickups. I'll tell you what, email me. You shoot me an email, we'll talk about it. My email should also be down in the description. If it's not, though, it's real easy. Just robertsguitardungeon@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, we'll talk about it. Voodoo Custom Pickups says, just picked up a Bernie RLC 70. I don't recall which one that is off the top of my head. I don't know if that's... Bernie guitars are still being made, because I think they were... I don't know if they were always made by Fernandez or if they got bought out by Fernandez at some point. I think they've always been under the Fernandez umbrella, but now, you could still buy them today, and even the ones that you buy today are still really, really nice. Honestly, I don't know why they don't get more recognition over here over here in the Western Hemisphere. Because I know they are still pretty big over in Japan and other places on that side of the world. But my understanding, even the new ones are still really, really nice. They're just they're Korean made instead of Japanese nowadays, I think. So or maybe even China. But so they're never going to hold the value that the older ones do. But still very well made guitars. Dave Escobar says I have a Bernie Explorer copy, Matthias Jab style. Nice. White with the black stripe 80s era. Nice guitar. Did it come that way from the factory, or was it, or somebody put that finish on it aftermarket? That was basically just You know, the Matthias Jabs guitar is basically just a white Explorer that he threw some black electrical tape over, was my understanding. Well, factory. Okay, cool, interesting. I don't know that I've seen those. The Bernie Les Pauls seem to be the most common. You don't see. I think the Explorers are probably number two. You don't see too many. Too many of the. Like the Bernie Flying V's or the the SGs if those even existed. Um, there seems to be mostly the Les Pauls, and then the Explorers are the ones that you see right after that. But fun fact for you: James Hetfield's original Explorer was actually a Greco Explorer copy with a bolt-on neck. A lot of people don't know that. He's more well known for the actual Gibson one that he played. Jim Woodard says, "Don't forget Ibanez copies." Jim Woodard in the super chat, by the way. Hey Jim, by the way, pleasure to see you. Says, "Don't forget Ibanez copies of Gibsons. They were the original lawsuit guitars. I forget where Hamer came from. Also great copies. I don't did Hamer ever get And you're right about the Ibanez guitars. Especially if you find the right ones. There was a run of them there. Of Japanese made Ibanez that were Gibson copies. That they're again not the most. I think everything Ibanez was making back then was a copy of something else, and then until all the lawsuit stuff started happening, and everybody started suing them, then eventually they came out with the RG. But Hamer, was Hamer ever sued though? I don't think Hamer was ever. They may have been, especially with the Hamer Standard, which was their Explorer copy. I hate to call it a copy though, because those were actually really, really nice guitars. And there was a lot of people. There's a lot of bands that were using them. But I think both guys from Judas Priest were using those at one point. And Hamers were seen back in the '80s, probably more often than the Gibsons were. So that's one guitar I've always wanted as a Hamer Standard. I've never been able to. I don't know that I've ever run across one. At least not one that was, either worth buying or wasn't, a gazillion dollars. Pardon me. So did you guys like the collaboration video this week? The one I did with Max, or the one that Max did with me? Anyway, I should say, because it was on my channel. That was, you guys all, I read in the comments, that video seemed to be very, very well received. So it seems that you guys liked it. I'm hoping to do more of them, because that was a lot of fun watching that video. That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun making that video, rather. I enjoyed watching it too when it was done, but, it was a lot of fun, and and honestly, Max gets probably, that video wouldn't have been nearly as good as it was if it wasn't for Max's input. He actually cared enough to to offer some suggestions, and because originally my vision was just gonna be whose gear sounds better, and then this is the gear, and then I play something, and Max plays something, and then say, here you go, vote, and that was it. But Max is like, if you're having another creator from another channel, as a guest on your channel, you're probably missing an opportunity if you don't interact with them. Here's some ideas. He threw some stuff out, and I was like, okay, wow, this is way, way better than anything I ever imagined, and so that's really that's what we went with, and. It came out really. I was really, really happy with it. So I'm hoping to get to do more of those with some other creators. When the trouble that I found though is finding other creators that, one, I own. We share a common piece of gear. And number two, I understand how busy they are. So. Voodoo Custom Pickup says, try getting Fluff on a video. I would love that, but, honestly, I don't, I don't communicate. I don't know. I don't know. I just, I'm not sure. He, yeah. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I've got a few feelers out with a few other creators. He's not one of them, but one of these days. Pardon me. Charles 75N says, looks like I will have to move my playing area to the garage. Central Texas heat. Would it be safe to keep my PV Bandit 65 out there? Because the Bandit 65, yeah, because you cannot kill those amplifiers. Yeah, solid state amps, it should be fine. I mean, it's even in Texas, depending on how how hot it gets in your garage. You might want to put a fan or something on it when you're actually playing through it, because if it's already 90 degrees when you flip it on, those transformers are going to heat up. I mean, it can probably handle it. Those amps have played many an hot outdoor festival gig, and they've have been fine. Yeah, I don't anticipate any problems with it. I'm not an amp tech, so I guess I can't answer that real accurately, but you should be fine. Dave Escobar says collab video was awesome. I have gas on the Kramer Voyager. Max played a Tracy Gunn signature Kramer Voyager in that video. Yeah, that was a pretty cool guitar. I hadn't seen that one yet. I went back and watched the video that he did on it prior to that, about a month before that. That is a pretty cool guitar. Jim Woodard says a collaboration video was awesome. I will have to do one. That'd be a lot of fun. I'd actually enjoy doing that. That was great. We've had both you guys on the podcast, and you're both great guys. We love you. Same to you guys, man. I hope that I've been able to point at least a small portion of your audience in your portion of my audience in your direction. So if you guys haven't checked out the Practical Guitars podcast, you should, because it's a great podcast. It's a great show to listen to, especially if you like listening to a couple guys geeking out on guitar gear. That's what it is. And Jim and David are both great guys. Talked to David yesterday, too, actually, as a matter of fact. He called me. Ben E says, your playing was great. Congrats on the collab video. Yeah, that one, I don't want to say that I impressed myself, but that was one of the more difficult solos that I've thrown together for myself, and I'm more surprised that I was actually able to pull it off. That was not a one take, by the way. That was what went into the video was probably take 6 or 7 or 8, and that was after playing it on my own, practicing it beforehand about 20 or 30 times at least. So, but it came out pretty well. Let's see here. Ghost Rider says my guitar collection is BC Rich Warlock NJ, Kerry King, BC Rich, Kerry King Flying V, that'd be a Kerry King Junior V. Kerry King Dean V, BC Rich NJ guitar, BC Rich Beast NJ guitar, that is, and LTD Jeff Hanneman. Cool stuff, man. I like the pointy guitars too. I've got a whole pile of them. Voodoo Custom Pickup says Kyle Bull also has a lot of gear. I have never seen that guy's channel. I've seen, he keeps popping up on my suggested friends list on Facebook, but I am not familiar with him. I don't know who he is. I need to check out his channel. Uh-oh, we got somebody else in here, another name I've never heard of, trying to get me to say happy birthday to people. I better be careful. Jim wished you happy birthday. So if that's legit, that happy birthday to you, and happy birthday to you. But as Break Here says, just a few people down below that says, hope you're not still getting trolled, dude. If you are a YouTube creator, you get trolled every single day. That's just part of it. You can't avoid it. There's no way around it. That's just what it is. There really are that many low-life pieces of shit out there. So, I decide to put those people on blast whenever I can. Park Kingery's here. Welcome, sir. Talk to Park this week, too. Joe Ennis says, I like Max's sound better. I want to be honest with you, I did too. I thought, actually, I thought his, granted, I mean, we all know I'm never going to outplay the guy. I mean, he's a phenomenal guitar player. So I'm never going to outplay the guy. There's so many other people on YouTube that I love to do collaboration videos with that I'm never going to outplay. So, I mean, that was part of the reason why I kind of want to make those things, make these videos gear focused. I may not play it very well, but I've made a pretty good living selling it. So, yeah. But I got to give Max credit. I thought his recording sounded pretty awesome. Schroeder Guitars is here. What's up, dude? Mike Schroeder is in the house, and can I let the cat out of the bag, or should I wait until everybody just till I get it and everybody just sees it? Let's see if you pop in a reply. Fried Rutabaga says, went music store hopping today, lots of empty shelves and hangers, and that is not specific to any one music store or chain or company or anything. That's production is still way behind in the MI industry right now. That's just. It's going to be a while before we get caught back up, dude. So, I keep telling everybody, be patient. We're getting there. It's a lot better than it was. I remember, July of last year, I couldn't sell anything to anybody because I didn't have anything to sell. There was none coming anytime soon. I mean, it was 2020 was rough, dude. It's going to be a while before everything fully recovers. Gear Junkie 35 says, "What's up, Tone Junkies? Robert, entertaining show as always. For recording gear demo, would you recommend the SM57 only or combined SM57 and live recording mixed? Thanks. Oh man, I've kind of got a love-hate relationship with the Shure SM57. I hate the SM58. For $100, buy Sennheiser E835. I know that's a vocal mic, but regardless, for $100, the Sennheiser E835, the EV ND67, or I'm sorry, ND76 was there's so many others that for the same price are just sound 1,000 times better than the SM58. And the SM57 is basically just about the same mic as the SM58, just with a tighter, super cardioid polar pattern. But the SM57 is much better for guitar cabinets and stuff. By itself, I don't always like it. It depends on what amp it's going to. Or it depends on what amp that you're miking up with it, I guess. I recorded with a 57 a lot of times, but I rarely record with an SM57 by itself. What I do is I'll put an SM57 on, recording out of a 212, for example. I'll put a 57 on one speaker and usually a Sennheiser E906 on the other, and then blend the two together. So that's the SM57 is a great like high frequency microphone. But I don't like it by itself very much. I do not like it by itself. I think it's a much fuller sound when you pair it with another mic. Fried Rutabaga says, if you're not getting trolled, you're not doing it right. That's true. That is true. Ben E, thank you very much for hitting up the super chat, and that one's going to the Les Paul custom. For those of you that may not be aware, I am saving I'm saving my pennies and stuff, saving my pennies and dollars and anything else I can find to finally buy my coveted Gibson Les Paul custom that I've always wanted and have never been able to buy because the goddamn things are so expensive. But I'm in a position right now. I think I can. My fingers are crossed. I should be able to pull it off this year. I still got a ways to go. Can't pull the trigger yet, but I'm closer now than I was. So, some of you guys have been kind enough to earmark some of your, some of the money that you guys have donated to support the channel specifically for that cause. So I'll tell you what, if when that happens this year, and it will happen, I'm determined. When that happens, that guitar is going to be dubbed our guitar. And if you contributed to it, if you contributed to acquiring it, I'll let you play it. Park Kingery says, I don't have a BC Rich yet. How do you not have a BC Rich yet? You need a BC Rich, dude. If you don't want any of the crazy pointy shapes, get a Mockingbird, or the newest body shape is a Super Strat called the Shredzilla, which looks pretty cool. In fact, I think it looks really cool. And they've updated all the appointments and stuff on it, so it's they're pretty awesome. They're a little pricier now, but they're also better made than they used to be. Metal Base 79 says, I think he had a better rhythm tone, but he had a better lead tone. I'm surprised as many of you guys enjoyed my rhythm tone as much as you did. I didn't, not that I didn't enjoy it. I don't think it's the best tone I've ever gotten on this channel, for anything, at least anything I recorded for this channel. But it might not even be the best tone I've ever gotten out of that amp. But a lot of you guys did comment and mention that you liked my rhythm tone in that video. So thank you. I appreciate it. Voodoo Custom Pickup says, I got a BC Rich Warlock Bodyguard edition from the early 2000s. I remember those. The only one, I didn't like the artwork on most of them. The only one that I liked was the Skull Pile, was the Skull Pile Junior V. That was the only one of those that I liked. And I had a chance to buy one for like $100, $150 one time, and I decided not to because there was another guitar that I wanted more. I never did get around to going back and playing it, or going back and buying one later. But new BC Rich guitar started $1,100. I thought you could get one for under. I thought you could get one for under $1,000. I might be wrong. Let's see what's on Guitar Center's website. You might be right. Cheapest one they've got is $12.99. Got some new ones added though that I haven't seen yet. They got a bitch double neck that I haven't seen yet. That's pretty cool. All right. Oh, Voodoo Custom Pickups with the mega super chat. Dude, thank you so much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. In fact, that may be a record. That may be a super chat record on this channel so far. Thank you very much. That is that Les Paul. That's where that'll go. So I'll be there in no time with you guys. You guys are too kind. Break Ear also in the super chat says, do you know if the Hipshot X trim on headless Kiesel guitars is comparable to a Sophia headless trim? I don't know. I'm not real knowledgeable about about Kiesel guitars. I played a few of them and I like them, but I'm not a diehard Kiesel guy. So they make great guitars. I have nothing bad to say about them. Jeff Kiesel's a little crazy. He tends to shoot his mouth off, every now and again when maybe he shouldn't. But, but beyond that, I have absolutely nothing negative to say about it. I think they're beautiful guitars, but I don't have the same working knowledge of them like I do with Gibson or BC Rich or, Schecter or some of the other brands that I follow a little bit closer. So, I am unfortunately the wrong guy to ask that question to. Let's see. Jim Woodard says, yeah, I went to my local guitar center and there are only about 30 acoustics, same number of basses and 100 or so guitars, maybe less. Just crazy. Yeah, it's, a lot of that I think is good, but, I think it's a good sense, a good thing, meaning that, I think it also means that a lot, more money is getting pumped into the economy right now. So, so people are spending money because it's only been, honestly, in the last couple of months that I've really heard about a lot of stores out there that are just, the walls are bare. So I have very, very little reason to frequent a guitar shop anymore these days. So I haven't been in one in quite some time. But we'll get there. Everything get back to normal. It'll just take some time. Joe Trey is here as well. Welcome to you. Schroeder Guitar says, you know better, my friend. I don't know. Let me think about it. I normally like to keep that stuff under wraps until the videos drop and just kind of let people see. But I don't know. We'll see. Gear Junkie 35 says I run the 57 into an Art 2 preamp before the interface. That might, I've never used a two preamp with a 57 before, so I've not tried that. I could see where or how that would smooth out the sound of a 57 quite a bit, though. So I'll have to give that a shot sometime. Janice Lala says, hello, I see you my suggestions. May I request you? I'm assuming, Chuck, you're talking about Facebook. Yeah, go ahead. Feel free. You are not a stranger to this channel. Jim Woodard says, we got to talk this week, Robert. My SM58 is about 20 years old and needs replacement. I've had it since the Smoky Bar days, and it feels like ass. I will give the SM57 credit in one regard. Those things are built like tanks. There used to be a video on YouTube. I haven't seen it in a long time now, but there used to be a video that was called like the SM58 test or something like that. And it was this group of dudes. I think they were over in Germany, and they beat the living tar out of this poor SM58. I mean, they dropped it off. They threw it out of they dropped it out of a window. Then they threw it out of a window. Then they dropped it off a roof. Then they threw it off of a roof. Then they threw it back up on the roof. Then they got up on the roof and they threw it back off the roof again. Then they rolled over it with a car. Then they rolled back over it with a car. Then they rolled over it with a truck. Then they rolled back over it with a truck. Then they rolled over with a truck, I mean, over and over and over again. I mean, they just absolutely beat the living shit out of this SM58. The very last thing that they did, they buried it in the backyard. And this particular part of Germany has got, weather, I mean, it's hot in the summertime and cold and snowy in the wintertime. So, I mean, it sees a lot of different seasons throughout the year. They buried this SM58, I'm sorry, not 57, but 58. They buried this SM58 in the backyard for 1 year. 1 year, and at the end of 1 year, they so through the snow and the rain and and all that, everything that has gone through, everything crawling through the dirt, they pulled it back out of the ground, they plugged it in, and it was distorting, it was crackling, but it still worked after 1 year underground. I got to give the SM58 credit, man. They're built very, very well. I don't like the sound of them, but they are built very, very well. But yeah, Jim, give me a call and we'll talk microphones. Carl Baumeister says it's like new guitar gods are appearing on YouTube. Max is one of them. I agree, man. He's definitely one of the better. He's definitely one of the better guitar players that's that's on YouTube. So as far as the big channels go, and there's a lot more of the big channels than there used to be, but he's up there. He's one of the best. So I mean, guys like Pete Cottrell and the Mega Shredders, Scallon and Jared Dines, and he can keep up with any one of them. Janice Lala also contributing to the super chat. Thank you very much, Janice. I appreciate it. Where was I? Yeah, with the big donations like Voodoo Guitar Pickups up here, YouTube will feature them at the top as for the I'm not saying you guys should or shouldn't, you should support with more or less, but the more, the higher the amount, the longer it'll leave you featured up here at the top of the chat, which I suppose makes sense, but there is a reason behind it. I watched a video that YouTube actually put out for creators about that a while back, and it made sense at the time, but not enough that I remember what it was. Ramir Maldonado says, troll question of the day: does a Gorilla amp can sound good? I'm assuming you mean Gorilla amp cab. No. Park Henry says, I liked your tone better than Max's. I get a lot of compliments on my rhythm tone, but if you're, I think his lead tone, no question, sounded fantastic. I didn't even have to do anything, man. I mean, he edited, he recorded everything, all of his parts and edited everything, and he just emailed me the file. Really, literally, all I had to do was drop it in. Jim Warder says that's what I use, a 57-609 combination, or the torpedo and the 609. Yeah, if I am just going to use one mic, I'll usually grab either I've got a Sennheiser 609 and a 906. I like the 906 better, a lot better, but I've also got that one set up on my Marshall cab, and I don't want to, in a really, really good spot, and I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to move it. So, so a lot of times, if I am just recording with just one mic, I'll grab the 609. That one is a pretty good solo recording microphone. Also a good live mic. So the 906 is better, but if you've never heard the 906, you would like the 609 quite a bit, I think. Ghost Rider says, what year model is Gibson LP, Gibson Les Paul? You're going to have to... I need more detail. Which Gibson Les Paul are you referring to? And would probably need the serial number to be able to tell you what year it is. I'm not sure exactly which one you're referring to. Gear Junkie 35 says considering using a backup speaker mic and a condenser about 4 feet out. I've heard a lot of people get results about that. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube now about how to mic guitar amps and combo combo amps and cabs and stuff like that. There's no rules. I saw the one video that I saw. He took a condenser mic and put it like 8 or 9 feet in the air, right up against the wall, facing the wall. When they were recording to get a different sound from. From some of the other methods he was using. That one I had never heard of. My recording environment is not set up for anything like that, and I don't play that loud, or record that loud that I think it will work for me anyway. But that was interesting. Ghost Rider says, Robert, I want a 1960 Gibson Les Paul. If you're referring like an actual 1960, like a burst, that's a pricey investment. You're probably looking at upwards of for JG Mopar just hit up the PayPal link on his own. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. As always, you were very, very generous. If you're talking about an actual 1960 burst Les Paul, 120 grand easy, probably closer to 150. 59s are even worth more than that. Those I've seen 59s go for over to 350. But if you're talking about like a Les Paul, like a Les Paul Classic or something that has has that 1960 truss rod cover, those can be had a lot more reasonable. You can find those for around $1,200 or $1,500. Dave Escobar says, I have only 2 BC Rich Super Strats, a white USA ST3. Those are kick ass. I'd love to have one of those. 80s USA Gunslinger, also cool guitars. I like the ST3s better, but the Gunslingers are cool too. Jim Woodard says, yeah, the manager said they're selling like crazy since the stimulus checks hit. Yeah, that's about right. I don't know. My phone started blowing up literally, first thing Monday morning, and and not just individuals. Businesses. Which is primarily who I deal with anyway. But I've submitted probably upwards of $50,000 worth of quotes this week, which is insane. I usually don't submit that much in a month, in like 2 months. Voodoo Custom Pickup says brick and mortar stores are dying. Thanks, Internet. You're not wrong about that, man. There is definitely some truth. Definitely some truth to that because, I don't know. There's a lot of people. I was just talking with a friend of mine yesterday, and, we were both agreed. We both did all of our Christmas shopping online this year, and there was no need to leave the house anymore. I went out one evening to do my Christmas shopping, but beyond that, everything else I did online. And, the internet has made things very, very convenient for a lot of people. But, you are right. There's something to be said about still, making the trip down to the brick and mortar store and, seeing all the guitars hanging on the wall, talking to the staff, and, building those relationships, meeting some new people while you're in there hanging out. Yeah, there's not nearly as much of that going on these days as there used to be, unfortunately. Ace XXX Oasis says, hello, Robert. Any suggestions for a recording computer? Ooh. A recording computer? No. Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on how much you want to spend, I guess. I record right now. I record everything on my Dell, which I bought. I bought this Dell refurbished, on Amazon for $400, and the specs on it, for the most part anyway, it had a solid state hard drive, had I think it was a 240 gig solid state hard drive, so it didn't have a huge hard drive, but 240 gigs was plenty enough to get me started. 16 gigs of RAM, Pentium Core i7 processor, and came with Windows 10 Professional, and the suite. I mean, it was pretty loaded up for $400. If I ever buy another brand PC like this again, I don't know that I will ever shop anywhere but Amazon refurbished, because it's worked out great. And I also bought the monitor. This is a 25-inch, HD 1080 monitor that I bought refurbished for like $80 or $100 or something like that. So, if you're wanting to do it as inexpensively as possible, then and this isn't getting into software. That's all the software and plugins and DAWs and all that kind of stuff that you're going to need, because that's a whole different conversation. But as far as the hardware goes, if you want to do it cheap, that's what I would recommend. Now, what I am in the middle of doing, and I'm kind of at a standstill until somebody buys my fucking multi-track recorder that won't sell. Until that thing goes. I'm at a standstill, but once it does go, then I'll be back on track, because I'm actually going to build a recording PC and desk and everything to go. I'm remodeling remodeling the dungeon, if you will, my guitar room, and so I'm gonna be I'm moving some stuff around. I've already changed a few things around already in there, but the big thing is going to be building. I'm actually going to build a PC, and Tony Ramsey is actually going to help me with that. When the time comes, we're going to shoot a video of all the components and everything that I've got, and assembling it and all that stuff. So it'll be a pretty big deal when it happens, but it's probably still a few months out. So right now, for the specs that I want, all the costs that I've added up for that thing, I'm probably going to be about at least $1,200 for the hardware, at least. So. I'm not going Mac. I don't want to buy Mac. I prefer to stick with PC. I don't want to get roped into Apple's recording ecosphere. No. Hey, also, you know what? Where is your? Oh, I see where you're excited. There's people out there. In the meantime, Zoe got groomed yesterday. So she was looking all pretty. She had bows in her ears, and she had a new bandana on, and apparently she has managed to shed those in the last 49 minutes or so that I have been here hanging out with you guys on this live stream. But I did want to pick her up so you guys could say hi to her and see how nice she looks now. And also, she needs some attention. Okay, I got you. Let's see. Quentin James says, "Did you get a Fender Acoustasonic Jazzmaster 2? Everyone else got one except me." Nope. I was not part of that. I was not part of that launch at all. I didn't even know about it until I saw the videos drop at the same time that you guys did. So, if Fender doesn't, I don't have a relationship with them as far as demoing gear or anything. I don't have a relationship with Fender anyway. So, they wouldn't. I'm not on their radar. I'm not on their list of people to call to demo stuff. But even if I was, I doubt they would have sent me an Acoustasonic. those are just I'm not the right guy to demo something like that. Break here in the super chat. Pardon me, guys. I got a couple super chats to get caught up on. You guys have been hitting that super chat button like crazy today. Pardon me. Break here says, yeah, I know. Yep, I'm sorry. Break here says, have you ever used any Sophia trims or tails? I have not. Honestly, I am not even familiar with them. This is the first first mention of them that I've ever heard. To be honest, I'm here, Zoe. I'm here, baby. There you go. I'm not familiar with them at all, so I'd have to check into them. I'm primarily, a Floyd Rose Kaler. I mean, between Floyd Rose and Kaler, I prefer Kalers, but those are the two that I've used the most. So, I've used Wilkinson every now, a time or two, and those are good Tremlos as well. And even the Strat, vintage Strat style Tremlos I like, but the Sophia trims are, those are new to me. Let's see, Casey Strange in the super chat also says, just bought a Sterling by Music Man and a Chameleon Green Sparkle. It's badass. What do you think about the Sterlings? I think the Sterlings, as far as the imports go, they're pretty nice. They don't have all the bells and whistles that their USA equivalents do. Like the Majesties, for example. The Sterlings are missing a few features. They don't have the piezo pickup. They don't have the they don't have the piezo. They don't have the they don't have the same electronics, the same pickups. I think they're missing the coil tap as well. And of course, they don't have all the fancy finishes and wood selections, all that stuff. But build quality's there. Build quality's there. And when they first started making guitars under the Sterling line about 10 or 11 years ago, they had some production issues to iron out. I mean, they weren't all that great, but Ernie Ball got a handle on that pretty quick, and I'm impressed with them. Anything Ernie Ball Sterling across the entire line, excellent. Buy with confidence. Excellent guitars. Let's see. Give me a minute. JG Mopar says, I just tested my cheap mics. I was surprised on the sound and how the SM57 compared. If you don't want to spend $100 on an SM57, you can spend $30 on a digital reference or something or whatever that mic is, $50 or on the digital reference instrument mic. There's one time anyway there was a Harley Benton SM57 clone that was damn near identical in look and sound. There was a Behringer clone that's supposed to be pretty good. There's a Stag, uber cheap Stag clone that you can buy on Amazon for like $20. That's also supposed to be pretty good. SM57 is not the only game in town for instrument mics. They may be the OG, but they're not the only game in town. Be right back. I need to go get her something soft to lay on so she doesn't have to lay on this hardwood floor next to me. Lay down. Lay down, Zoe. Lay down. Nope, okay. Alrighty. Gotta spoil the dog. Let's see. There have been quite a few people that popped in here that I haven't had a chance to say hello to yet. Quentin James, M's Guitars. DJ Calvi. Rondo Bondo. Crush Band NYC, Cecil Music. I think that's all I see here at the moment. Welcome to everybody. Thanks for coming to hang out with me here today on the live chat. If you are just now popping in. Let's see. Ghost Rider says, my favorite pickups are EMG 81 and 85. I like the 81 and 85. My only complaint with them is they sound identical. Like a lot of EMGs. They sound identical in literally any guitar you put them into. I love the 81 85, especially because, I'm a diehard Zakk Wylde fan. And he's the guy that made that, that made that pickup famous. Or that pickup set famous, but there's not a lot of character in them from one guitar to the next. That any guitar that they're in, you're hearing the tone of the pickups. Break here says, are there? This is down on the super chat, by the way. Says, are there special strings that are wound at the ball ends to be less likely to pop on a Kahler trim, or do I just need to solder them all the time? I've never had to solder strings on my Kahlers ever. I don't know. If you're soldering the string to the ball ends on a Kahler trim, I don't think you're supposed to do that. That's I've never heard. Matter of fact, I've never heard of that. Most Kahler trims, at least on my guitars, like on my Hamer, they're made to be able to hook the ball end into a slot where it's not going to pop out once you get the tension on it from the other end. But yeah, I've never heard of soldering the strings of the ball ends, or soldering anything when it comes to a Kahler tremolo. Oh, Ghost Rider says, what year is the Gibson Les Paul Custom that you want? Honestly, I'm gonna buy a new one. I think I'm gonna buy a new one. I don't want one that's, I want to put all the miles on it myself. I want to put all the miles on it myself. I don't need a vintage one. The ones from the 70s that everybody seems to be real hot on right now. Number one, I think there's too many of them are huge pieces of shit, and because Gibson couldn't build a guitar worth a fuck in the 1970s for the most part, so their quality was real hit or miss, and it's you got to find a good one. Number two, even if you do find a good one, it's probably been played to death and it's already worn out, relic, and not relic, but finished, worn out, and all that. I don't want any of that. I want my own story. I want my own new guitar. I want to be able to account for every mark, bump, scrape, scratch, bruise on it. So, and the new ones have they've gone back to using ebony fretboards on them, as opposed to that stretch there in the early 2010s there, when they were early mid 2010s, they were putting Richlite on them. So they're back to using the right wood, to build them the way I want them. So pardon me. That's probably the route that I will go. DJ Calvi says, hi, Robert. I'm building a Boss-only pedal board for fun. I need a reverb and a chorus. Any suggestion? A Waza tuner. The Waza tuner is supposed to be a lot more accurate than the regular TU3s. I think the TU3s are probably. The TU3 is Boss's best-selling pedal. So if you buy a TU3, you're getting a pretty good pedal tuner. The Wazacraft TU3 is supposed to be even more accurate than that. I don't know that there's got to come a point when it's when the level of accuracy just is it's too accurate that you can't read the damn thing. So keep that in mind. As far as a reverb, I would definitely if it's all Boss, you got to go with the RV6. If you don't want to spend RV6 money, then find either a used RV6 or a used RV5. Both of those digital reverbs are excellent. And as far as a chorus goes, I like the between the CH1, the Super Chorus, and the CE5 Chorus Ensemble. I like the Chorus Ensemble myself. But there's also some pretty cool Wazacraft stuff. The Wazacraft CE2, or I think it is. I can't remember which one that is. What exactly the model number is, but there is a Wazacraft Chorus that's supposed to be pretty good. Park Kingery in the super chat contributing to the Les Paul Fund. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that. Let's see. Voodoo Custom Pickup says I got a 92 Les Paul that has had 2 headstock brakes and is still running strong. The quality from 59 to 95 was great. I think people are starting to discover those early 90s Les Pauls. It was there for a while. They weren't even on people's radar, but now all of a sudden, here probably in the last 4 or 5 years, people are kind of starting to wake up to them a little bit. And you're right, they are. They were making some really, really good guitars back then. I actually like 80s Les Pauls quite a bit. Purists, diehard, high dollar, blues lawyer vintage collectors, wouldn't, they all hate the 80s models, but I like them. I think the 80s Les Pauls are, were killer. The one of the best Les Pauls I've ever played was an 83, 84, 83, 84, 85. I can't remember exactly. It was a mid 80s, somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly which year. But it was a black Les Paul standard, but it had a Kahler on it. And that guitar weighed about 12 pounds. It was an absolute boat anchor, and it played and sounded awesome. I didn't have the money at the time to buy one. If I did have it, I would have bought it. And that thing was kick ass. Ghost Rider says I go for a 1960 Gibson Les Paul Custom. The 1960, the Les Paul Customs aren't worth as much as the I don't think they weren't calling them standards then. Back then it was just a Les Paul. But what we now call the standard, or what we call those, is the burst Les Pauls. The cherry sunburst 1960s are worth quite a bit more than the customs. Customs are still valuable, but 58, 59, 60, those are the burst years. Those are the ones that are the most valuable. Let's see. Voodoo Custom Pickup says I got 2 Guitar Centers within 20 miles, and both are completely bare. Yeah, I haven't been down to my local store here in a while. I imagine it's probably just like any of the rest of them. They're wiped out clean at the moment. Let's see. Scotty G in the super chat says I'm looking at a 90s PV Silver Stripe Sheffield Bandit tomorrow. Less than $200. What's your opinion on the red teal versus silver trans tube? I've never A-B'd them back to back together. I keep meaning to buy myself a Bandit as well, just because I want to see what all the hype's about. Everybody says these things are the greatest pedal platforms on the planet. Not everybody, but a lot of people say that these things are the greatest pedal platforms on the planet. I keep meaning to buy one, just because I want to see what in the hell all the hype's about. Those things are big too, man. It's a 112 combo, but those things are freaking huge and heavy. My understanding is the red stripe is the one to get. The silver stripe is the second most desirable one. But from everything that I have, all the information I have gathered, the red stripe is the one to have. So when I buy one, that's probably the one I'm going to try to get. Break Here says I'm sick of Gibson's legal tomfoolery. I won't buy. There's a lot of opinions on that right now. I don't like how they're. I don't like a lot of their. The way their corporate office does a lot of things, as well. I think suing the other guitar companies over every little thing is stupid. I get the need to protect, intellectual property. I get that, but they haven't done that. They don't have a history of doing that very well either. Um, so yeah, it is what it is. But the less my love and me loving the Les Paul Custom, I'm always wanting one that goes back way before any of that. I mean, that's a guitar that I've been after for 25 years probably at this point. So, let's see, where was I? Crushman NYC. No, I'm sorry. Cecil Music says, Robert, do you still have your Hamer, the original factory Kaler? Oh yeah, Hamer Scarab. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's an '85 Hamer Scarab with the all original. Matter of fact, everything on that guitar's factory, except for the strings, of course. But everything else, all the hardware and everything on that guitar's factory, and that's that one. That's one of those guitars that's in the keeper stash. I'm never gonna get rid of that one. Let's see. Jim Woodard says two reasons people use the SM57. The sound engineer is more likely to know how to set it and set their end. That's probably the primary reason why people use the 57. In their tanks, they hardly ever fail. That's true. Although the one that I have was not the first one that I owned. I bought a used one, and the store that I bought it from, I brought it home, and actually it didn't work. Nothing can wouldn't pick up anything at all, and I tried everything. It was a dead in the water paperweight. So I did have to take that one. I did have to exchange that one, but for another used one that I do still have, that's worked just fine. Hmm. hmm Cecil Music says Carvin used to offer Kalers, but now Jeff Kiesel won't even offer them. There's not too many guitar companies that are using Kaler. I don't know what Kaler did to piss everybody off, but who is using them? BC Rich is using them on their on like some of the Kerry King models there for a while, but that was two ownerships ago. uh, I can't think of anybody that's actively installing Kaler tremolos on their guitars, as straight from the factory. I can't think of anybody that's doing that right now. Floyd Rose has got most of that business locked up. And what Floyd Rose doesn't have, Wilkinson, there's a few, still some companies out there that are going Wilkinson. Some companies, there's, like the, Jazz Box stuff. It's, they're still using Bigsby's pretty religiously. Evertune. I know that's not a tremolo, but a lot people that are as far as aftermarket bridges go, Evertune stuff has started to get more and more popular, particularly among the metal crowd. But who's using Kaler? Tell me somebody who's using Kaler, because I can't think of anybody, and it's been that way for a long time. I don't like it. I wish more companies would go back to them, installing Kalers from the factory, but. I don't know anybody that is. So like I said, I don't know who they pissed off, or what they did to piss everybody off. JT Mopar says, I saw the Cecil. Jeff says, Jeff, as in Jeff Kiesel, says the fit on the new Kiesels, he would have to cut down into the body for it to work right. Valid reason. Valid reason why Kiesel isn't using Kalers. Cecil Music says soldering the wines. does prevent breakage on Kahlers. If you do a lot of big pull-ups, a lot on Kahlers, they will snap strings after a while. I can see where that would where soldering the winds on string on a Kahler where it would help prevent that, but I've never had a problem with it. Even on my Kahlers, I've never broken a string from cranking on the tremolo too hard, never. So granted, I don't crank on tremolos very hard anyway, but yeah, I've never had a need to solder strings. So that's like I said, that's the first I've ever heard of anybody doing that. Interesting concept. I'm not knocking it, but man, that's a hell of a lot of work just to put on a new set of strings. I would say though, now that I think about it, you try the D'Addario NYXLs. They have the technology that those strings use at the ball end of their strings actually is designed specifically to prevent breakage at that specific point. And people love those strings because they don't break. Like I said, I don't break even my regular Ernie Ball Slinkies. I bet it's been 3 years since the last time I broke a string, but I take that back. I broke a string a couple months ago, but it was probably 3 years before that, since the last time I did before it. So I don't break strings very often, but for those that do, NYXLs, even though they're pricey, they're like $12 a set. But the NYXLs might be for you, especially if you're running into that problem with the Kahler. Let's see. Ben E says my two new 2019 Classic and 2020 Special Gibson Les Pauls are incredible. My 2006 SG is wow as well. People love the Gibsons. There's no question about that. No question about that. I haven't gotten rid of my Gibsons because there's despite they can be one of them in particular, my SG in particular, can be a little quirky. It sometimes likes to give me an attitude when it comes to restringing, setting up, and stuff. But that guitar's still special to me for very specific reasons. So, and it does sound good. The only thing I like with a Floyd that I like better than the Kahler is their locking nut. A Floyd locking nut is a lot better than Kahler's behind the nut string lock. I think on the G&L Jerry Cantrell Rampages, that's actually how he had his guitars built. I think he used the Floyd Rose nut, but he used the Kahler bridge for that reason. So, again, I've never had an issue with the Kahler nuts on any of my guitars. I think I have 2 guitars with Kahlers. I've never had an issue with the nuts at all, but I do see why people would prefer the Floyds. Jim says your preference of guitar and reason is yours. People who take offense because you don't like their guitar is silly. It's not like you're telling them their children are ugly and stupid. I don't think Robert takes that personally at all. I must have missed something. I think somebody may have deleted a comment that I missed. I don't. I didn't read anything here that I found offensive. JG Mopar says my Charvel Model 5 with Floyd has a lock nut behind the nut. That is true. Some Floyds do put their locking nut behind the nut as well. My Model 5 might actually be like that. Now that I think about it, I have one guitar. No, Is it that one? Maybe it might be my Aria Pro 2. Shit, I don't remember. That's the problem when you have so many damn guitars. You can't remember which ones have what specs after a while. Let's see. Dave Escobar says Kahlers just have to be strung right and no problems. Agreed, no problems. You know, on my Hammer Scarab, I have literally set that guitar up once, and I've never needed to touch it again other than change strings on it. I just pull the old strings off, cut the old strings off, put the new ones on, and and it still plays as awesome as it always has. I've never had to make. I set that thing up once in 2008 when I bought it, and I haven't had to touch it since. I love that guitar. I wish it was I wish it was a little bit more when I'm sitting down playing with it on my lap, because of the shape, it's closer to my leg and a little bit more awkward to play sitting down, but. Footstool will usually fix that problem. Dean Escobar says, new Deans have Kahlers. That I did not know. Interesting. I'm trying to get in touch with Dean because I want to demo some of their guitars on my channel, but I haven't gotten in touch with anybody over there yet. So I'm hoping that they get back with me. I would really like to demo some of their guitars on my channel. Sorry about that. Give me a minute to get caught up in the chat here, guys. Let's see. Let's see. Ron Bondo says I have a '73 Black Beauty. Nice. I love the Black Beauties. I'm not. I don't want to buy. I don't want one of those with with this purchase just because it's I don't need the middle pickup. I don't need the middle pickup. I would never use it. Ghost Rider says, I wish I owned BC Rich Company. They would be made South Korea, the USA Custom Shop. I think that's where they're made now. Still the USA Custom Shop is still around, and all the other stuff, the current import line. I think they're all Korean. Let's see. Ernie Ball RPS reinforced strings hold up very well on Kahlers. Says Cecil Music. That's right. I forgot about those. The somebody else mentioned also the D'Addario XTs have been mentioned, and the Ernie Ball Paradigms, which I can't believe I forgot about those. That's their NYXL equivalent. Matter of fact, they have a guarantee that if you break those strings within like 30 days or something, they'll replace them for free. I said, I'm not a heavy-handed enough player that I need to, reinforced strings like that. So I haven't explored that too much. And, I've played the Paradigms, and I've played, I've A-B'd them with the regular Ernie Ball regular Slinkies, and for my purposes, there's not much difference. Matter of fact, I couldn't tell any difference at all. I couldn't tell you which one of my guitars right now has the Paradigms on it. I've forgotten. Hmm. Voodoo Custom Pickup says, I love the GHS Boomers, but also use the Tone Pros stop tails. Yeah, I mean all my Gibsons have Tone Pros stop tails on them as well. I like Boomers. You know, GHS Boomers are probably my number 3 string of choice. You know, if if I'm ranking strings, you know, Ernie Ball Slinkies, or you know, if I'm ranking string brands, I guess I should say, you know, Ernie Balls are are definitely my favorite. That's what I use the most. Dunlops are my number 2, and Boomers would probably be my number 3. And then and taking elixirs out of it, because I do use elixir polywebs on some guitars. Pardon me, on some guitars as well, but those are coated, so you know those are coated and they're at a much different price point. So you know it's kind of a completely different set of circumstances that I won't, you know, I don't feel right ranking those in with the rest of them because I use them for a different reason. Hmm. Ace XXX Oasis says, I'm back. Wife called. Had to leave. Yeah, you know, the wife calls. The wife calls. You answer. There's one lesson in life I've learned. The wife calls. You answer. Let's see. Fernando Von Arb from Crocus used a Hammer Scarab with a Kahler back in the day. Way back in the day. Crocus was like early 80s, early mid 80s. I mean, I think they're still around. I think they've done like a reunion tour or two here in the last 10 years or so. But J2 Music said, "Is a Blue Yeti a good mic option to start out doing YouTube solos on, or should I save more and get a Shure?" Yeah, it depends on what if you're micing, if you're using it to mic a cabinet, or mic a speaker, combo amp, speaker cabinet, whatever it might be. Blue Yeti is probably not the way to go. You know, the Blue Yeti is a USB mic that functions a lot more like a condenser mic. It's a little bit harder to control and not necessarily, a condenser mic is a good secondary mic for a guitar cabinet, but in my opinion, there's plenty of studio engineers who will disagree with me on this. I don't like to use condenser mics for a primary microphone. I've done it before, and I've had some good results, but they can be a little tough to control. I prefer dynamic mics on guitars for recording anyway. So, if I were you, I mean, a Blue Yeti is more expensive, especially if you're just talking about a Shure SM57. I think Blue Yeti is more expensive than that anyway. More expensive than a 57 goes. Now, if you're wanting to save your money for a Beta 57, which I would recommend, I think you'd be a lot happier. Either Beta 57 or Sennheiser E906, either one of those, I think would be, you would be a lot happier with. Let's see. There was break here in the super chat again. Says, I've noticed the only guitars that use Kahler trims are fan frets, 7, 8, and 9, and 10 strings. I think Kahler's the only ones that make those. I didn't think any fan fret guitars had tremolos on them, because fan fret guitars being multi-scale. I mean, I'm not familiar with a multi-scale tremolo. I'm not familiar with any company that makes a multi-scale tremolo, because there's so much difference from the low side of the scale to the high side of the scale as far as scale length. So yeah, I'd have to look into that. I'm not familiar with that at all. Hmm. Cecil Music says Lita Ford prefers Kahlers on her BC Riches. I thought she used Floyd's. To be honest, I think I know her signature guitars. I think have Floyd's. Um, Unfortunately, those aren't being made anymore. I could be wrong. Hmm. Mm. You guys are talking strings amongst yourselves. Mm. Timothy Plonk says the best live stream on YouTube. I don't know about that. I think there's some, there's others out there that are, uh, obviously my favorite live stream is, in our genre anyway, is probably Pete Thorne. People fire questions at that guy like crazy. So I mean, he's got a ton of knowledge, a ton of knowledge and a ton of experience. I like Pete Thorne. He does his live streams on Sundays. So I try to pop in on those when I'm able. Hmm. Kahler does multi-scale trims. I haven't seen any of those. Interesting. Try not to laugh says, "What's your favorite movie?" Anything Star Wars, particularly from the original trilogy. I grew up on the Star Wars movies, and I have seen every single Star Wars movie. I have seen every single Star Wars movie in the theater on its original release, including the first one that was only released in like 26. Originally released in like 26 theaters around the country. That movie was released on. That movie was released in May of 1977. I was born in December of 1977, and I was in my mom's belly. So, but I was in the theater, went on its original release, so I'm counting it. But yeah, anything Star Wars, anything Star Wars, my favorite is pretty much my favorite movies. Um, Here lately, I also really like the MCU movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I really like the Marvel movies. I really like the DC Comics movies, the Supermans and Batmans and the Wonder Womans. I haven't seen the new Wonder Woman yet, but a lot of people said it sucks. But you know, the superhero movies I really enjoy. Kind of takes me back to when I was a kid collecting comic books and stuff. Um, Other honorable mentions. Oh boy, let's see. Top Gun, Goodfellas. Let's see. A Few Good Men, Air Force One. Um, Pearl Harbor, I really enjoyed. A bunch of them. There's a lot of I was a pretty big movie buff when I was a teenager. I had a pretty large video collection that I had amassed growing up. But favorite movie, anything Star Wars. Ronnie Webster says, "Good afternoon, Robert and chat. How's everybody? I'm doing okay. Everybody else seems to be doing okay as well. At least it's in here as near as I can tell. Uh, Nobody's complaining anyway, so I guess it's half the battle on YouTube." Jim says, "You know why this one's good? Because you actually answer almost every freaking question." Well, right now I'm able to do that because my live streams don't rarely even crack the 50 mark. So I'm able to keep up with the entire chat, at least relatively anyway. You know Pete Thorne, on the other hand, and guys, channels that size. I mean, his live shows, he's got 500, 6, 7, 800 people in there hanging out with him. So his chat box is scrolling pretty fast. So I don't know how anybody can read all of it. I mean, people have to ask their questions multiple times, and hoping that he sees it. So. Ghost Rider says, "Robert, what is your favorite amp?" Amp that I own? My Marshall JCM 900. I love my 900. Favorite amp, period, that I would love to own? Ooh, probably a Diesel Herbert. Heaviest sounding amp I've ever heard. I would love to own a Diesel Herbert. I don't know what in the hell I would do with 180 watts, but I would love to own a Diesel Herbert matching 412 cab. Among others, but if I could only pick one, that's what it would be. S-Fear6 says, "Hey, RGD, good day. What was your first metal band you ever listened to? Yeah, you ever listened since your younger days?" Very first metal band that I got, it was Metallica, really. I don't know. Now I take that back. I was always really, really into, as a kid, I was really into what we now call the 80s hair metal stuff. I loved all that stuff. The Motley Crues and the Judas Priests, and Judas Priests weren't hair metal, but Skid Row and Poison, and there were so many, all those bands. You got to the point they were all kind of doing the same thing, and I think that's one of the reasons why it kind of died out. But you can't deny the fact that all those bands were just loaded with monster guitar players, monster musicians altogether. That was a great era, great time for music. And anytime you turn on the radio, I remember in 1984, you couldn't turn on the radio without hearing a song from Van Halen's 1984 album. It's just that's just the times that we were living in back then, and it was, like I said, as a kid growing up, it was a great time to great time to get into, being exposed to music. But a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, introduced me to Metallica when they were, right around there, when they were on their Master of Puppets album cycle, and that's the one that grabbed me. I listened to Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice as they came out, but eventually I had all three of those records on that I had dubbed onto 2 cassette tapes. I would listen to my Walkman, my headphones, on the bus to school every day, and I had those 3 albums on 2 different tapes. And I would start one and listen to it front to back, and as soon as it was done, I would pull it out and put the other one in and listen to that one front to back, and repeat that. I repeated that process over and over and over again for months and months. I didn't want to listen to anything else. Nothing but Metallica and those three albums. And then eventually I threw Kill 'Em All in there with them as well. But I mean, it was for me. It was Metallica. Metallica are the ones that inspired me musically more than any other. God damn it, YouTube. Dave Escobar says Pete Thorne could make a paperclip and some pocket lint sound good. Sound awesome. I've said for a long time he can snap off a tree branch and string it up and make it sound good. And I don't think that's too much of a stretch. Let's see. Ghost Rider says my favorite Star Wars is Attack of the Clones. Man, of the prequels, God, all three of those when they came out, man, I was in it. I was into it. I was on fire. I saw every, I was first in line, at every single one of the releases. In the theaters. I think I saw the first one I saw in the theater like 20 something times. I saw Attack of the Clones in the theater like 15 times or something like that. I was into them. And when Attack of the Clones came out on DVD, I wore that. That was the only. I watched that. I watched that one like I listened to Metallica records when I was a kid. I would watch it and get up and go do something. And then come, when it came time to come sit back down and watch a movie again, I throw that one back in. I love that movie. Same thing with Revenge of the Sith. That one I couldn't. I think that one's probably my favorite of the three prequel movies. But that one I couldn't get enough of it. I still love those movies, all of them. They're all great. Say what you want about George Lucas, say what you want about the prequels and all that. I don't care about any of that stuff. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed all of them front to back. Did I love Jar Jar Binks? No, but that's why they backed off on him on the second and third movies. I really, really enjoyed the character development, particularly at the end of, at the end of at the end of Revenge of the Sith. How they tied everything in beautifully with the beginning of Episode 4. I thought was brilliant. They left pretty much everything, everything explained. They didn't mess with any. They didn't leave anything out. No, I thought the prequels were really, really good. I also really enjoyed the special effects in them too. Even if George did get a little carried away with them in some instances. Voodoo Custom Pickup says too much political crap in the new films. Man, you can't do anything these days without somebody getting political on you. That from both sides. I've lost friends because I get so sick of people that sticking their clearly baseless opinions, I can't help myself. You guys know I don't do bullshit very well, so I call somebody out, and other friend, my I won't get into the story, but people see that, and then all of a sudden I'm getting called names and accused of some of the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard. Yeah, I hate our country's political spectrum right now. I absolutely despise it. Cool Guitar Gears here. What's up, dude? Just did some retuning of a friggin' Floyd Rose drop tune thanks to your video. Oh, good. Glad that helped. Now working on some bluegrass metal, which is quite fun. Bluegrass metal. I don't know what bluegrass metal sounds like, but it sounds interesting. Ronnie Webster says, I wasn't born until 85, so I had to settle for seeing the original trilogy special editions in theaters in 97. I saw those too. Saw all of them multiple times, by the way. The special of the special edition re-releases, the first one was the best. First, the special edition of A New Hope was the best one that they did. JG Mopar says, Phantasm is my favorite movie than Evil Dead. The Evil Dead movies. Bruce Campbell. I've never seen any of the original Evil Dead movies, but when they brought him back to do the new, I think it's an HBO series. He seems like Bruce Campbell. I love Bruce Campbell. I loved him on Burn Notice, especially. I love Bruce Campbell, but he seems happier than a pig in shit to be back doing doing the Evil Dead character again. Voodoo Custom Pickup says no movie in history hits you like how Empire ended. That's true, man. And the thing with Empire, I mean, all of a sudden they hit you with the big drop there at the end, and after that, there's no like, decline or anything. It just ends. I mean, I mean, they spend some time getting everybody all back together in the same place at the same time, in the same location again. But beyond that, that's it. It just ends. And then we're stuck waiting another 3 years to see, that this is actually true. I mean, and now it doesn't seem like, even watching it back, it doesn't, nowadays it doesn't have near the impact that it did the first time around. But you're right. At the time, that was a bomb. Joanna says, anyone like The Big Lebowski? I've not seen it. I got a couple of coworkers that love that movie and swear by it. I've not seen it though. Ian Nunez says Pee Wee Big Adventures deserves an Oscar. My favorite, Ronnie Webster says my favorite movies are mostly horror and stuff like Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange that's a fucked up movie, man. God, I mean, it's not as tripped out as House of a Thousand Corpses is the most tripped out movie I've ever seen. So it's not as tripped out as House of a Thousand Corpses, but it's pretty tripped out, man. Stanley Kubrick is I can't imagine what it'd be like, having that guy's brain, because it doesn't function like the rest of us. Dave Escobar says Kong versus Godzilla coming up, HBO Max. I admit, yes, I like it. I tell you, and part of it's because of COVID, and there's really nothing that can be done about it. But it's kind of a drag seeing all these new movies that are just being released straight to the streaming services. I mean, there's been a couple of them been released to HBO, which I don't have, and I'm not paying them $15 a month just so I can watch 2 movies. That's that kind of pisses me off to see see those big companies trying to suck more money out of people. So hopefully they'll get back to releasing stuff into theaters, so we can actually when we can actually go to movie theaters again. Let's see. Ted Doucette says, "Hi, Robert. Hope all is well. Ever tried GFS pickups?" Yeah, I've tried them. They're depending on the model. They're kind of they're hit or miss. I mean, they're Chinese imports. Chinese copies of other pickups. The ones I think probably the ones I like the best, at least at one time. I don't know which. I'm sure they've added some other stuff out since then that I would probably like. But the ones that I liked the best were, pardon me. They had one called the VEH, which they said stood for Vintage Extra Hot. Obviously, it's an EVH tone sounding pickup. And there's another one that they that was paired with it with a neck pickup, and I can't remember what that one was called. But those were pretty. I thought those were pretty good sounding pickups. So nowadays, I mean, I don't know that I would ever buy them nowadays. Now it's not that much more money between from the GFS pickups to like Seymour Duncans. It's not that much more expensive. I'd rather have the USA Seymour Duncans, the DeMarcios. Just ordered a JD Mopar says just ordered a Rev G20. I want one of those amps pretty bad too. I think those are really cool with the 2 notes. The torpedo or the 2 notes. I think it's got torpedo live, or it's a wall of sound. I think it's the wall of sound that has installed in there on board. Or maybe it does have the load box. I can't recall. Regardless, it's pretty cool design. J2 Music says thanks to Jim Woodard, just managed to find a good quality, good audio interface, and the mic and cables and all that. One final thing is the SM57 good for speaking into. Yeah, I'm sure Jim may have already weighed in on this in the chat, but yeah, you can. There's actually a lot of studios that actually use the SM57 for recording vocals. So I mean, it can do that stuff. Really about the only difference between the 57 and the 58 again is the polar pattern. The 57 has a tighter polar pattern to keep it focused more in one direction. And eliminate outside noise from bleeding into it. But yeah, you can sing into or talk or sing into a 57. Michael Carver says, "What do you think about the roasted maple neck Squier guitars?" I haven't seen them yet. Most of the Squier stuff that I've seen the last several years has been, I think it's been pretty well made, especially for the money. No reason to suspect that these would be any different. I talked about Squiers, Fender putting a lot more effort into setting up the Squier guitars a lot better right out of the factory, and they have absolutely done that. So, for good reason. Which model 900? 40? Yes, I have the 4100 dual reverb. Voodoo Custom Pickup says, "I just missed out on JCM 900 2500 for $600. Guy sold it just before I messaged him. Ugh, 2500. Was that the Mark III? That's a Mark III for $600. That's a pretty good deal. I can't remember if that's the Mark III or the SLX, though. Let's see. Kobe L says, "Will you collaborate with Max again? Will that be the beginning of a series?" That was the beginning of a series, hopefully anyway. Am I going to collaborate with Max again in that series? Maybe down the road. The idea is to get other creators involved. Not just Max. As much as I'd love to work with Max again, and I hope I get to. I also want to work with some other channels out there, and I've got some feelers out there. So hopefully it will, hopefully I'll be able to make it happen. So a lot of those guys are busy, man. They're really busy, and they don't have time to, stop and record, another segment for somebody else's channel. It's, that's a pretty time consuming thing to ask from somebody else, especially, guys like Henning Pauly and, Phil McKnight, guys that, they're doing this for a living. They're putting out videos all the time. They're 50 or 60 hours a week focusing on producing YouTube content. So Jack Bird says, I saw a vid on trainer amps from back in the day. Have you ever dealt with them? They seem cool. Yeah, they are cool. They're trainer amps are great amps. Canadian company. They're boat anchors. You got to eat your Wheaties if you plan on lugging one of those things around. They're not lightweight amps at all. But but they are. They do sound good. I can't remember which model it is, but a couple of them in particular that have really, really good clean channels to them. Scotty G says, "The musicians I have worked with, the ones who knew the most about live sound, came from 80s metal. I'm not a metal player, but I learned a lot from them." Yeah, that's true. Those, especially the guys that came out of that era, they've just got an ear for tone. And even though I technically did come out of that era, I don't have, I didn't develop my ear back in that era, unfortunately. So I can't dial in, I can't dial in a good tone out of just about anything like a lot of, experienced players from that time period are able to. I wish I could. Hmm. Give me a second here. I'm getting caught up in the chat. Yeah, Voodoo Custom Pickup says, I love political debates as well. I'm very political, but doesn't go near my business or anything. Yeah, I mean, I've got plenty of my own political opinions, and strong political opinions. A lot of them, but I don't talk about them on YouTube. I don't post them on my personal Facebook page. I the news publications that post articles on Facebook and the comment section. That's usually where I voice my opinion, and usually where there's plenty of people that are disagreeing with me for one reason or another, which they're allowed to do. But again, separate time and place. There's plenty of other places that does not belong, and this being one of them. Oh boy. Dave Escobar says, grilling steak for lunch. I'm jealous, dude. Go enjoy your steak. It's not quite grilling season here yet. Close, but not quite. JD Mopar says, I met Bruce Campbell at a book signing while he was still doing Ash vs. Evil Dead. He's a funny man. I can only imagine, dude. I remember seeing an interview with him. It was they were interviewing him and and Jeffrey Donovan, and I think they were interviewing the cast of Burn Notice, and they were talking about the how some TV producers, like to do things a certain way, and other TV producers like to do other things a certain way. He was saying specifically, Matt Nix, who was the producer of Burn Notice, Matt Nix just likes to blow shit up because they did blow up a lot of shit on that show. So he was talking about how the special effects guys always would get real excited whenever they get to blow something up. Like I said, they got to blow a lot of shit up. I love that show. I watched Burn Notice religiously. I was crushed when it ended. S-Fear6 says, how about the guitar cable you're using? Any recommendations? Mogami Gold. Best cables on the planet, dude. There's other good cables out there, but if you're willing to spend the money, these are a little pricier. Mogami Gold series. You'll spend a little bit more for them, but you only spend it once. And because you'll hardly, I've never had. This cable's probably 10 years old. I've had a pair of these for 10 years or more. Another pair for 15 years. They all still work fine. The only time I've ever had to spend money to replace them is if somebody stole one, which has happened a few times. And in the event that one does short out on you, they get a lifetime warranty, and they will replace it for free. JD Mopar says a load box. Rev G20 has a load box in it. That's what I thought. I thought it did. Robert, do you have any opinions on Seymour Duncan blackouts? Yeah, I like blackouts actually. That's what was in my acrylic BC Rich that you guys saw in my collaboration video with Max last week. The guitar that I used in that video has a set of Seymour Duncan blackouts. Voodoo Custom Pickups is 2500, meaning Marshall 2500 was the Mark III. Wow. Mark III for $600, even a 50 watt. Yeah, that's a good deal. Mark IIIs don't pop up very often. I'd love to have a Mark III, and I'd love to have an SLX to go along with my dual reverb. I love my dual reverb. I'm never getting rid of it, but I would like to have the other two versions of them. I like all the 900s. But piling up, acquiring a pile of Marshalls right now is not a priority. Ted Doucette says, I agree the VEH are good. I also love the crunchy rails. I did put crunchy rails on an old Ibanez Roadstar, and also a Japanese BC Rich Mockingbird. It wasn't. It was the crunchy Pat that I was thinking of. I couldn't remember the name of. The VEH in the bridge and the crunchy Pat in the neck. I think those are the ones I like the most. At that time, that was, like I said, that was a long time ago. I don't know if they're still in their current product line, or if they've discontinued one of them, if they're if they added to it. I have no idea. Ghost Rider says, Robert, do you think P90 pickups are overrated? No, I don't. I don't think P90s are overrated any more than humbuckers or single coils are overrated. I think it's it's just a different type of sound, and maybe and again, just like humbuckers and single coils, it may not be for everybody, but there's a lot of people out there that love P90s. I don't personally own a guitar with P90s, not just because it's never been a huge priority for me to add a guitar with that tone to it, to my arsenal. But no, there's nothing wrong with P90s at all. I don't buy into this. The term overrated when it comes to guitar gear is so redundant. That's some overrated means you're looking for purchase validation, or looking for purchase invalidation, one or the other. And I don't understand that. If you like the way something sounds, why would you care what anybody else thinks? If you enjoy it, and it's doing what you needed to do for you. I've said this over and over again. Break here says, Brad the Guitologist, this is in the super chat, says Brad the Guitologist got really political a while ago, too political for a guitar channel, in my opinion. He is a pretty opinionated guy, I've noticed. Let's see, Haas Coleman is here. JD Mopar says Chuck Finley. Yeah, I asked him about Burn Notice. He was shocked I wasn't talking Evil Dead. I asked him, I would have talked nothing but Burn Notice because I was such a huge Burn Notice fan. I loved his Sam Axe character. Absolutely loved him. I'm surprised that he was shocked that you were asking him about asking him Burn Notice questions. I mean, God, that show ran for like 7 years. He's pretty well known for it too. So even if I guess maybe because it was an Evil Dead signing, but yeah, I love Burn Notice. It's up on Amazon Prime right now. Has been for a while. Timothy Plonk says, I wish we could go back to 80s metal. During that time, everything was not highly politicized. Everything wasn't highly politicized 5 or 6 years ago. I guess you had your share of bands, more bands nowadays, that are writing lyrics about political shit than you were. I mean, back in the 80s, everybody's writing lyrics about, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's about partying and getting laid and making money and living the life, right? Well, not too many people, not too many people are, romanticizing that concept anymore, unfortunately. Let's see. Ryan from the Midwest says, Robert, I think I like the look of roasted maple neck, which makes the headstock roasted too, rather than the vintage tent lacquer. What do you prefer? I'm not real big on lacquered necks. Period. I mean, I like satin finish necks. So, now whether that's done with lacquer, polyurethane, whatever the case may be. But the older I get, the more I prefer a satin finished neck. As far as the look between vintage tent and roasted maple, I don't know, man. I probably lean more towards the vintage tent, to be honest with you. I kind of like that look. Not too many. Really, nobody does it anymore either. So, few people, few companies out there still use it. Fender still uses it on some of their stuff every now and again. So, I mean, it's kind of the vintage tent thing is kind of fallen out of popularity, I think. But I've always liked it. JD Mopar says, I bought the whole series of Burn Notice on DVD. I love the Dodge Charger mic drives. I did too. Matter of fact, I still own the whole series on DVD. And then as soon as I ended up completing my Burn Notice collection on DVD, Burn Notice 24 was the other show in that era that I was addicted to. I own all that entire series on DVD. Then all of a sudden, DVDs went obsolete and became replaced with Blu-rays, and now I've got one small TV left with an actual DVD player that I can still watch them on. So now it doesn't make sense to buy the Blu-rays or anything. Now you can just pay for the download code and stream it. Oh well. All right, guys, we are past the 2-hour mark here, so I am going to hit the road here and go enjoy the rest of my weekend. I still got another video to upload, actually, so I'm going to go take care of that, enjoy the rest of my weekend, and probably cook some good food, and maybe fire up the grill now that I've got that on my mind, and the more I think about it, the more I'm having trouble justifying not doing it. So, yeah. I'm out. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoy the video tomorrow. I don't even recall which one it is, but I hope you guys enjoy it. And, adios.